Parshas Nosoi Tavshin Pei Gimel. Before we begin tonight's Nesivos Shalom Shir, we really want to mention that this past week, we lost one of our longest standing members that's been coming to our Nesivos Shalom Shir really since day one, which is about 13 and a half years now. And Rabbi Nachman Taylor, was there from week one, and I think that I estimate that he was the videographer. He was the one who videoed and the shir that we could send it out all over the world. I think he videoed our first 500 shiurim. Now, Rob was an exceptional person that gave up so much in his life to become frum. He gave up so much to move out of his hometown and move to Lakewood so his children can go to frum schools. And Baruch Hashem, he has children who are Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and I'm sure there'll all be a S.S.S. for him. But as you all know, 3 years ago, Rob had a stroke, and he didn't quite recover at all for the past 3 years. And then one morning this week, we lost Rob. So this year, going forward now, should be a S.S.S. for our good friend, Rabbi Taylor, Olav Shalom. And at the end of our parsha, we have what is known, everybody's very familiar with this part of the Torah, we have what is known as the Parshas HaNesiyim. And we know after the Mishkan was built and we were going to open the Mishkan, so the Nesiyim from each Shevet brought a korban lachanukas hamizbeach. And what it was these were the korbanos that the Nasi of each Shevet brought. Now everybody knows that it's pretty unbelievable when you look at the second half of our Parsha and you look at this Parshas HaNesiyim. It's pretty unbelievable how we pretty much read the same exact thing over 12 times. Each of the Nesiyim brought their karbanos, and the karbanos were identical. And yet the Torah goes ahead and doesn't say that we brought the following karbanos for all the Nesiyim. The Torah goes ahead, and for each Nasi, we repeat the same thing. And everybody is really familiar, everybody's familiar with the Parshas HaNesiyim. We know that we read the Parshas HaNesiyim on Chanukah. Many shuls read it also from Rosh Chodesh Nisan for 12 days. It's the time of the year that everybody becomes a Bal Koreh. Everybody's able to read the Parshas HaNesiyim simply because we just read the same thing over and over. And the Nesiyim were makriv the same exact korban, and the Torah repeats it 12 times. And anybody who learns Gemara, anybody who learns knows that every word, every pasuk, every word, every letter in the Torah is accounted for. Many times the Gemara will learn something out of an extra hey, an extra vav, and every word is counted. Every letter is also accounted for. Everything comes with a good cheshbon. Nothing is extra, and nothing comes for no reason. And we learn so many things out of each and every word and letter in the Torah. So why here, at the end of our parsha, by the Parshas HaNesiyim, why here does the Torah actually take the entire thing and talk about it in such great length, where it would seem that really it could have been written in a much shorter version? Why do we say the same thing over and over? And really, if you look to last week's Parsha. We didn't learn it last week. Last week in the United States and Chutz La'aretz was Shavuos. So actually this week, those of you who are listening and watching in Eretz Yisrael, you're sort of getting a chazara, because this week in Eretz Yisrael is Parshas Ba'alo Yischa, and we are learning Parshas Naso this week. But when we learned Parshas Bamidbar, we had the same thing when we were talking about the counting of Klal Yisrael, the counting of the Shvatim. Once again, we're repeating the same thing over and over. We do a count, and then we add up all the counts together. Seems to be talking about things at much greater length than would actually be necessary. So Nesivos Shalom asks, we need to really understand, first of all, in our Parsha this week, Parshas HaNesim, what is going on here? Why is it written at such great length? So really, the Nesivos Shalom says that the first thing we need to understand is that although we're trying to understand why the Torah writes it over and over 12 times, we need to understand something very basic and very fundamental about the Torah, is that the Torah is full of things that are very, very beyond our comprehension. That we don't understand everything. And Nesivos Shalom says that just as there are 600,000 neshamos in Klal Yisrael, there are also the equal amount of perushim to the Torah. So we shouldn't try to think that we really understand fully why the Torah writes or says every little thing. But as much as we think we do try and we begin to understand the Torah, and we're going to try to give an explanation now, we need to also understand that with all these explanations, we have hardly even touched the surface of the Torah. You know, the Nesivos Shalom brings down in other places, I didn't see it, it's not written in this piece here in our Parsha, but the Nesivos Shalom brings down that the Pasuk says in Tehillim, Toras Hashem Temima. And the Nesivos Shalom says on those words that Toras Hashem Temima, that no matter how much we try to take the Torah apart and try to understand and try to break it down, Toras Hashem Temima, the Torah still remains complete, and we have to understand that we're not even touching the surface as to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was thinking, Kaviyachol, when the Torah was written. But our kasha is still here, why things are written in such great length. And we can really just try to a little bit understand the repetition of the Parshas HaNesim. Says the Nesivos Shalom that the Torah is actually teaching us, by repeating this so many times, the Torah is teaching us a very, very important lesson about Klal Yisrael, and why did Klal Yisrael have to split up into 12 Shvatim at all? We know that what Hashem wants from Klal Yisrael is total achdus. Hashem wants us to be one. He wants us to get along with each other. He wants us all to be brothers and sisters and family, one entity of Klal Yisrael. So why is it that Klal Yisrael, if Hashem wants us all to be together and He wants us all to be one, why are there 12 Shvatim? Why aren't we just all one group? Hashem wants the absolute achdus of Bnei Yisrael, so let's all be one. As we mentioned last week, Shavuos, when we came to Har Sinai, Vayichan Shom Yisrael Neged Har. So we darshan, we say, Ish Echad B'Lev Echad. We got together, we became one people, one family. So splitting up of Klal Yisrael must have a very important and deep reason. Says in the Nesivos Shalom that the Torah is telling us something that we need to know and we need to always remember, that there are so many different parts and jobs in Klal Yisrael. As we know, brought down in Kabbalah, right, that each Shevet of Klal Yisrael is a different tziruf of the Shem Havaya, and actually with all the Shvatim together, all the 12 Tzirufim of the Shem Havaya, we make up one Klal Yisrael. But we need to know that each Shevet had their own holy job and derech avoda in avodas Hashem. No two Shvatim were alike, and each Shevet had their job, their way they're supposed to do it, and their focus and their purpose. And that is exactly why the Parshas HaNesiim is repeated 12 times, because it's to show the vital importance and kedusha of the derech of avodas Hashem of each Shevet. You know, sometimes we all think we're under the mistaken notion that every person in Klal Yisrael has to be the same, right? In order to get into this yeshiva, every person has to dress the same, look the same, be the same, think the same. That's the way, unfortunately, right, we have become. And we think that if you're a little different and you're a little off, that something's a little bit off with you, something's a little bit wrong. When Klal Yisrael was set up that way, that every person had their talents and their derech, and their she'ifas and their thing that they're supposed to do, and you're supposed to just concentrate on and excel on your thing. Each Shevet had their own das and their own derech. As we know, on the first day of the Nesiim, Shevet Yehuda was the one who, the Nasi of Shevet Yehuda, brought their carbon. Shevet Yehuda, we know, was focused on Malchus and everything that they did. And every avodah that they did was within the realm and the influence of coming from Malchus. They had kingship. The next day was Shevet Yisachar. Shevet Yisachar, everything revolved around the Torah. The next one was Zevulun. Zevulun was different. Zevulun wasn't Yisachar. It didn't revolve necessarily around learning the Torah. Zevulun was the partnership. Those that supported those who are learning Torah. They came from a different angle and different direction, and so on and so forth. Each Shevet had kavonos that were directed toward their tafkid, what they were supposed to contribute and do for Klal Yisrael. And this really, what we're saying here, what the Nesivos Shalom is saying here, this is the way the Medrash explains this idea of 12 different mahalchim, 12 different jobs, and each person in Klal Yisrael, each Shevet in Klal Yisrael, doing what they are supposed to do. If you do someone else's job, if you try to be someone else, if you try to be someone who you are not, then you're not doing your job. You're missing your tafkid in life. If you're doing what your neighbor, your friend, somebody else you know, an acquaintance, somebody that tells you you have to be this way, you have to be that way. If you're doing things in your life that way, you may think you're making that other person happy, but you're not making Hashem happy. Hashem put you, every one of us, in this world to do what you can do. And until the coming of Mashiach, each Shevet has their tafkid and their way and their thing that they're supposed to contribute to Klal Yisrael. And the lesson that we have to learn from here is what the Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Kuvav Amud Beis, the Gemara tells us, Rachmana liba boy. Hashem wants not the actions that you do. Hashem wants what's in your heart. Hashem wants you to give your heart, to dedicate yourself to your cause, to what you're supposed to do. To Hashem, the machshava and what's in your heart is what's really important, what you put into it. And that's the lesson we could learn from the Nesiim. From the Nesiim we have to learn that it may look the same on the outside. Everybody might be dressed in the same white shirt, same black yarmulke, in other words, right? Otherwise, you look a little different. Everybody might think so, but that's not what's important to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's important to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is you just be you. Be the best that you could be. And if we all contribute to this mosaic, this beautiful thing known as Klal Yisrael, then we will have the tremendous achdus and the completeness of Klal Yisrael.